Week 29, day 4. Compassion. We talk a lot about compassion. One of the greatest experiences I ever had in my life was teaching this curriculum at an alternative school in Nacogdoches, Texas. And I would teach it every morning to about 85 students in the cafeteria before they began their day. Now, these students that were in this school, there was many reasons. Some of the girls were pregnant or had had children and were single and were having to raise the child on their own, and they didn't have the time to go to school, so they had to go to an alternative school where they could work at flexible hours. Some were so smart that they were bored to death by school. Some had been bullied to an extent that they were miserable in school and they caused problems. And they came to the alternative school. They asked me that year to give the commencement address for the, I think it was 18 seniors that were graduating. The commencement address that I gave was real simple. I gave each one of them the dog tag with nevertheless on it. Because you see, they were the nevertheless class. Everybody said, you can't do this. You're pregnant, you're having a child out of wedlock, you cannot go to school, you cannot graduate. You've been in so much trouble at school that you're not going to be able to graduate. You're married. You decided to get married as a sophomore in high school. There's no way you can graduate. Wait and get a GED. Nevertheless, these 18 graduated. Listen to this story. I was in my first spring coaching at a school that had won 2 games in the previous 2 football seasons. We were having our first spring practice in pads when a young man came to me just before we went on the field and asked if he could play football. He said he had never played but would like to try out. I told him, if you complete all the paperwork that's available online and get a physical by tomorrow, I'll let you play. He showed up the next day with all his paperwork and the completed physical. He was not a good player because he had no experience in the game. I'm going to say what he was. He was horrible. We finished the spring. He came to every summer workout and gradually improved. He was a starter for us by the middle of the next season. He was an offensive guard. One afternoon after practice, I was giving him a ride home. He shocked me beyond belief when he told me, as a matter of fact, I was going home to kill myself the day I saw the team practicing. I am now a starter on our undefeated team. I've joined the choir and I have a girlfriend. The following day, I talked to our counselor, and she said she had noticed a real difference in the young man. Whereas he had always been a loner, he now searched out those students who had been where he once was and worked to become their friends. The young man finished his year successfully, received many awards and several scholarships. He chose to go to school to learn welding, and last I heard was doing real well in his chosen profession. He calls or comes by to keep me updated. See, he developed the quality of compassion. And he really became a role model for compassion. The counselor told me that he would go in the cafeteria and he would search out. She said before he would just go sit by himself. And then he started playing football. And he was horrible. And he didn't do anything but get better and get better because he worked hard and he was so coachable. He got a nevertheless dog tag because he came every day. And he never competed with me. He cooperated. If I said, you've got to step with your right foot, he stepped with his right foot. Or he worked at it until he got it right. He was the most coachable kid that I probably ever coached. And probably the most improved kid I ever coached. He went from being the bottom of the pile to being a starter to eventually being an all-district football player. And the counselor said that he had been such a loner, and she said she noticed the difference one day because he would come in and he would find those people that had been where he was, and he would go and sit and talk to them in the cafeteria. And he made them his friends. He developed a lot of qualities, but the number one quality that he developed was compassion. Because he knew where they were coming from. He knew how lonely it can be. He was going home to kill himself. And he thought, well, I'll just stop and see if I can play football. And I wish I could say I was really nice to him and really did a great job of counseling him and putting my arm around him. I didn't. I said, I tell you what, you get all your paperwork done and you get a physical by tomorrow and I'll give you pads. I wasn't very compassionate. I gave him a chance, but to get all the paperwork done in one evening and get a physical the next day before 3 o'clock, he had to hump it to do that. He is the most compassionate person you'd ever meet today. Bullying somebody, that would never happen with him. And if somebody bullied somebody around him, I promise you, he would stop it and prevent it immediately. He's doing well. He'll do well. He'll be a great father. He'll be a great worker. He'll be a great person for his life because he has developed the quality of compassion to the fullest. How about you? Where are you at on a scale of 1 to 10? With 1 being not any compassion at all, and 10 being as compassionate as this student. Where are you at? Be honest. We need to get to that 10. If you're going to stop the bullying at your school, and if you're going to stop the prejudice at your school, then you've got to develop the quality of compassion. Prejudice is not a problem. Prejudice is a symptom of the problem, and the problem is a lack of compassion. Walk a mile in their shoes before you judge them. Know where they're coming from. Have compassion. Make it a great, compassionate day. See you tomorrow.